Uh-oh. You guys ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones. I'm ready to take you guys on an incredible journey right now. Sorry I had a little technical difficulty there. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys are doing amazing. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. You guys rock. And I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Okay. You guys, please be sure to follow Spaced Out Radio on all of our social media platforms. At Spaced Out Radio. That's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Actually, Instagram's at Spaced Out Radio Show. Okay, because there's apparently a couple of Spaced Out Radios already on there. So you guys go follow us over there. And please, if you'd like to support our channel, please go to Patreon. Okay, and become a member of the Space Travelers Club. And that's a great way to support Spaced Out Radio. All right, you guys can follow me at thecryptidhuntress.com, where you can find all of my shows there. I do have my own YouTube channel. That's called The Cryptid Huntress. If you guys aren't subscribed over there, please go subscribe. And I have live shows there every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Okay, and we have a really good time over there. And I have some pretty great content that I'm pumping out to you guys on the weekly. All right, so yeah, please, if you'd like to support my work, y'all can go join my Patreon and visit my shop. That's called War Woman Goods. I think all of that is on the ticker down here below. Just go to my website. Oh, and you guys can listen to all of my shows on podcast platforms. Just go to Spreaker, pick your favorite one, and click on it. All right. Okay. Well, you guys, we have a fantastic show tonight. I have my friend, Dr. John Stamey, in the studio tonight. We're going to be talking about some very, very interesting topics tonight, stuff that I haven't really covered a couple of these things before, but we're going to throw in a little remote viewing with this too. And yes, I am a remote viewer. Okay, so he's probably going to end up interviewing me tonight a little bit. So this is going to be really crazy and really fun. So don't forget that right after this show, Rob G has a great program for us over on After Hours. So y'all be sure to go check that out. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to our guest tonight, shall we? Okay. Dr. John Stamey has always had an interest in the paranormal. He runs a number of Comicons, as well as Bigfoot and Lizardman and Cryptid UFO conferences and festivals. He co-hosts ScaryCast, a weekly podcast on Blog Talk Radio, and his shows air on his YouTube channel, Bigfoot and Company, and he's published several books. So, and they're all about cryptids, the Lizardman of Skateboard Swamp, okay, the Bishopville Lizardman, aliens, UFOs, anomalies, Bigfoot and friends, and he's hosting the World UFO Conference coming up in about a week or two. I think it's about a week and a half. We're going to be over at that UFO conference. I will be there. I hope you guys will come and join us up in Clayton, Georgia, where we have the Georgia Bigfoot Festival. So please help me welcome to the show my good friend, Dr. John Stamey. Hey, John.
Hey, Jessica. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. I am so excited to have you here tonight. It's always really fun when I have you on a show because we have a lot to talk about.
You know, we always do. I mean, we tried to compress so much good stuff in the green room while we were talking before. And I said, golly, we're just going to have to wait and talk about this on the show because that's why we're here, to talk about really interesting things. And I guess tonight we're talking about my favorite topic, which is the field of mind technologies. What the mind can do. And it's amazing what the mind can do.
Oh, yeah. If humans only realized how powerful they are as far as their, I guess, psychic abilities go and anything about mind control. Okay, because we hear about mind control. And the first thing that we think of is MK Ultra, and that's bad. Okay, like people look at that as being a bad thing, and it is a bad thing when it comes to like people being basically hypnotized or put under mind control under terrible, dark programs with our government and black projects and stuff like that. But actually, mind control is a beautiful thing if you use it right. Okay, and you know how to control your own mind. That is actually something that is paramount to our cryptid research on my team, because we have to be able to control our minds to keep us from losing our minds out in the field. Okay.
So I believe that.
Yeah.
I really
Absolutely.
do.
It's part of it. It's very important. And when you can control your mind, you can pretty much do anything. I'm just saying.
You can, because the mind can do many things. And people don't give the mind credit. You've got to relax and give your
Mhm.
mind control so that your mind can do what it can do, be it ESP or telekinesis or whatever. You can do it all. You really can.
You can. You can. I mean, I'm not saying I can do it all, but I'm pretty good at things that I do. Okay, and I'm pretty good at remote viewing and stuff. And that is a part of the mind technology. I guess that's kind of where you're going with this tonight, right? The mind technology. I've never heard of it put that way. Mind technology.
Well,
So
I grew up in a technology world. I'm a former chairman of computer science department. Got my doctorate in at North Carolina State in computer science, and I've always believed that the greatest computer in the world is the brain, the human brain. And I set out about 5 years ago to try to figure out how to program your brain. If it's the greatest supercomputer, there's got to be a programming language. And in my book, I will be talking about that programming language. And that programming language reared its head in 1931 in a book. And I found it. I did an exhaustive search. And you know what? If you don't give up, you might find something good. So I found an elementary programming language that really does work to help program your brain. And then there are also some other activities that we can do. And I know we've talked about them, and I'm gonna talk about them tonight. So, what do you want? What topic do you want me to get started on? The floor is yours on that, and I'll get
okay.
going.
Okay, well, I want to talk about the mind technology first, and then I mean, I could see from us talking in the beginning before we went live, there is a progression to all of this, and it does get to these manifested beings, and I want to talk about that. I think it's going to flow naturally. So let's start with the mind control first, okay, and the mind technologies. And you are welcome to ask me questions about remote viewing or whatever you'd like tonight. I know this is my show. I interview you, but you're welcome to interview me too tonight. Okay.
Well, thank you very
Okay.
much. I like to ask you questions because, Jessica,
Okay.
you truly have interesting answers for me and for other people. So I
Yeah.
guess I'll just start out with my basic, because this book is going to be coming out around Thanksgiving. It'll be on Amazon with a foreword by John LeMay, my good friend, the preeminent UFO historian in America. He's from Roswell, New Mexico. And John and I have a lot of stories together that I tell John that between he and I, we probably have most of the stories or most of the answers to those things people have questions about. But as I said, the mind is the greatest supercomputer in the world. So how do you program it? Wouldn't it be good to know how?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
there is a combination. I'll go ahead and tell everybody. I don't mind, because if I'm going to put it out in my book, I want this to help people. I don't want to keep it a secret. I like to be very inclusive. You know, some people like to be restrictive. I like to be inclusive so that it can help people. Well, you know, if you say I want to, or I need to, or I've got to, that doesn't do anything for the way you think. But you're going to laugh. In 1931, the original version of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill,
Okay.
on pages 17 through 19, talk about the way you need to think to get things to happen.
Hmm.
And it's very simple. So simple.
Manifesting.
Yes.
I,
All you
I don't
have
mean
to
to
do
interrupt,
is,
but you're talking about manifesting, right?
that's exactly what it does.
Okay.
And so what you do is you say, I intend to do this. And studies have found that when you use that word intend, that
Hmm.
changes the way your brain works. It
I
is
like
a
it.
it's a key word. It's part of one of those programming language concepts that changes the way you think. And another one is prayer. Now, you know, I know some people don't think a lot about religion, but I have found that prayer really does help get your brain on the road toward getting connected to a higher being to get your prayers answered. So I guess yes, manifestation. Use the use of the word intend. If you say I intend to do this, your brain acts differently, and your brain tries to help you do what you want to do. And then when you use prayer, Now, there was an interesting study. I read it. It was in Psychology Today, maybe about 20 years ago. They took people that used prayer and they measured their brain functions. And they took people that just meditated and they measured their brain functions. So what did they find out? The people that meditated didn't really have anything going on that helped them progress and manifest. But the people that used prayer, speaking to a higher power, what it did was it changed your brain. Your brain was okay. Like right now, you and I are in a conversation mode. I am talking to you, and your brain is waiting for what I'm saying. And then you're going to speak back to me, and my brain is waiting for what you're going to say. Well, that's how prayer works. You are connected to a higher power. And when you speak in your head, or if you speak prayer out loud, it is heard somewhere out there in the universe. And you are there waiting for the answer. Now, I know that sounds so simple and crazy, but it works. It works for me. I mean, it just does. I mean, I'm a prime example. Once I learned these two things, I have been in the process of manifesting good things for myself and for other people. I like to help people. I just do. It's not anything you get paid for, but I get satisfaction off of helping somebody. And so that it does work. So that the idea of saying, I intend to go to work tomorrow and do the best job that I can. And if you keep thinking that over and over and over, well, guess what? Your performance will really improve. It really will. For some reason, your brain listens to you. Your brain, there's a two-way communication even between you and your brain. And your brain is just waiting for instructions. So if you give it the right instructions, it's like a computer. It will do what you want to, by and large. You know, it won't help you be like Napoleon and conquer Europe or whatever.
Well, John, can I make a comment real quick? Because that's where, I mentioned the MK Ultra mind control. And that's something that when we watch television, okay, televised vision, right? But they call it programming for a reason, because the things that are being presented to us and that we're seeing and that we're watching are programming us to think in a certain way. Now, listen, I can say from experience, I know people in my families and everything that are like, no shade, okay, to anybody I know, but you do get programmed, especially if you watch certain news, airings and stuff, news networks. It can make you. It really does it kind of molds people into thinking a certain way, which can be bad. It can be good, but it could really be bad too.
Right. Now, I don't have television. When I was 26 years old and I got my bank statement, and for some reason I could not add up the numbers to see what my bank balance should be, I got really mad. And I took that little calculator that I had and I crushed it with a hammer. And I took my cable out of of my wall. I threw it away. And I said, I'm not going to let anything tell me what to do. I'm not going to let anything control my brain and my life. I have
Good
not
for
had,
you.
I don't have television. Now I do have YouTube and I do have iHeartRadio and I do have Roku, but I can selectively pick and choose what I want, like to listen to one of your shows or to learn things. I don't care what anyone says. I'm a pretty big fan of the Why Files. Andrew does a good job in research. Sometimes his conclusions are a little whatever, but his research is spot on. They do a good job on that show, and I listen to it for the research because I was trained as a researcher, and I'm kind of addicted to research. I love it. I love finding out the truth. Don't you, Jessica?
Oh yeah, I do. And I've come to the conclusion that we're not going to be told the truth. We have to find the truth ourselves. No one is going to just show it to us and put it on a silver platter and walk out a bunch of Bigfoots on a stage and say these are real. We have to do the research ourselves. And if that means being out in the field and doing it, that's what we're doing.
I think if you truly want to see a Bigfoot, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see a Bigfoot. I never could figure out where to see one. Then all of a sudden, a new friend came into my life, and I went to this new friend's house. And that new friend said, well, I have a couple clans of Bigfoot out here in the back. I said, oh, that's great. I didn't deny it. I just said, wow, that's great. And I was rewarded. I saw my first and second Bigfoot at that house. And then I go to Northeast Georgia, which is my favorite place in the world. That is the Magic Land, Rabun County. And I've had 6 or 7 Bigfoot encounters up there. And what I tell people is Bigfoot encounters don't happen on command. It's not like I want to see a Bigfoot and it happens, but you just have to want to. Now, I believe that they are so much smarter than we are. They can know who we are. They know if we're going to cause them harm. They know if we're the kind of person that they want to show themselves to. And if they want to show themselves to us, they will. I've had many people say, I just really wanted to, and I wasn't going to cause them harm. And lo and behold, they find Bigfoot, or Bigfoot finds them. And I think that's kind of the key. It's like one friend said, just take lots of pictures all over, and you'll be surprised what you'll see. I have a good buddy, Les Durant. He's going to be a speaker at the World UFO Conference. What he does is he goes outside and he takes pictures of the sky 2 and 3 hours a day. He comes back in, and you wouldn't believe what he finds, because he has this program that tells him what the flights are coming in and out of Atlanta Airport. He's over there in Georgia, so he knows how not to confuse plane flights with true unidentified flying objects. Now, it takes work. He had to get the right tools. He had to learn how to use them, and he has to work a couple hours a day. He's retired early, but you know what? He loves what he does, and I love it when I get on there and talk to him. He says, John, let me show you what I found. You wouldn't believe it. And I see pictures that are just crazy cool. And so he's going to show some of those at the World Bigfoot Conference, because he has programmed his brain. His brain helped him figure out what to do. And for some reason, the UFOs just show for him. So we're gonna see about a bunch of that on Friday evening. Now, if you want to be there Friday evening, 9 o'clock, that's going to be at the R&M Rose Distillery in Dillard, Georgia. He's going to be leading a Calling the UFO session, which is in a number of ways like the CE5 of Stephen Greer, but his is different, and he is very successful because I have seen the videos. So yeah, it's a matter of you program your brain, and you might get some help from above, wherever above is.
Right. I think so too. I think it's important that we do program our brains. I think we have to, first of all, we have to deprogram everything that we've ever learned. Okay.
Yes,
Anything that we've ever been taught. The first step is deprogramming, and then it's reprogramming. And it's so important that we do that. Okay. And I think a lot of people who are watching this show right now, and people who are listening in, I think that they understand that. And a lot of us have had to deprogram, and now we're reprogramming for the highest timeline, okay, for our best lives, and only the good positive stuff, to enhance our lives, not take us down a notch.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to always aspire to greatness. And I don't, that means you're going to try to do good things. You're not going to try to harm others, but you have a quest or a thirst for knowledge. I think that quest or thirst for knowledge comes through to the cryptids they see you. I can guarantee you when I go up to Scape Swamp in Lee County, South Carolina, I can guarantee you Lizardman knows I'm there. I guarantee you, because they are smart. Those cryptids are very smart. Bigfoot is smart. I guarantee you the Greys on the spaceships, they know who you are, because they're just smarter. They have a lot of psychic ability, if that's what you want to call it.
Well, and that's actually why part of the reason that my team has been trained so heavily in remote viewing, because it is all about mind control, John. So you're kind of exposing tonight why I am a remote viewer, okay? And it is because of the cryptids, and for the communication aspect, and because they're known to be able to control your mind sometimes, okay, and to scare people. Now, imagine in a perfect world, if you were out there doing field research and you had enough training in mind control to where those ETs can't stop you from doing whatever you're doing out there. They can't put you to sleep. They can't do whatever they do to you, because you're able to control your mind so much that they don't have control over you at all. Okay.
What you're saying, I believe, is they can't zap you.
They can't zap you. That's right. And I'm not saying I can't be zapped, but I know how to defend against it a little bit for the most part, as much as I can. And the Bigfoots too.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a big experience, and I think I told it on the show one time about Bigfoots zapping the dogs that normally would have come out, and the Bigfoots were out there. I had the most unbelievable experience. It was terrifying. I'm not going to go back into it, but it was in Northeast Georgia, and the Bigfoots were out there, and I had wandered into a situation where there were many of them out there hunting and teaching their young ones how to hunt. And you know, they know me. They didn't need me around, so they knew how to keep me inside a cabin. Boy, did they ever, until the sun came up. I knew exactly what I didn't need to do. So anyway, yeah, that's true. And I guess what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, I would like to move to another topic in
Okay.
mind technologies. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, I want to. I had not been familiar with Dr. Nikolai Kozyrev. He was an astrophysicist in Russia. He passed away in 1983. I am beginning to think that after I have read some of his work, some of his books, and read articles about him, that he and Einstein were the two greatest minds in physics of the last century. Nikolai Kozyrev was unbelievable. And he, in 1928, he said, there is volcanic activity on the moon. And of course, he was like 20 when he said that. And he had already been published. He was already teaching at a college in Russia, 20 years old. And the prevailing people in the United States said, oh, that can't be possible. Well, in about 2005, they found out that there were rocks that were of volcanic origin on the surface of the moon. Nikolai Kozyrev was correct. Now, what he is famous for is the Kozyrev mirror. And that is a device, or it's a structure and a device where you can do time travel in your mind. Now, I believe that. I don't believe that the body is capable of going back and forth in time so much, is because our bodies are very fragile, right, Jessica?
Our bodies are fragile. Yes, fragile. Yes.
And I
Yeah.
don't think we can, but I think in our minds, we can go back and forth. Now, they're still doing a lot of studies in Russia using one of his devices called the Kozyrev mirror. And what that is, it's like 10-foot tall piece of aluminum that is spirally wound with a chair in the middle. And the way it's round is according to the Fibonacci sequence. Like if you have a conch shell, you know it has that beautiful spiral inside. It's exactly identical to a conch shell and how they've got it worked. And what happens is whenever they build one, they have ball lightning, they have UFOs come around in the area. It just does something to the environment. It's really kind of crazy. Yeah, that's an example. There are several of them, and the one that they use, it's a little bit bigger. They use it in kind of a large room, and they build it. It's just a circle, but I think you have to do it exactly right. And what happens is you're sitting in there, and you have this massive amount of energy that's built up, and you start looking and staring at the walls, the aluminum walls. It's just aluminum. You start staring at them, and lo and behold, they become translucent, and you start seeing things from your past, the present, and the future, and from lots of places all over the world. It's great. Now, that is his invention from about the mid 50s, okay?
Okay.
That's not the first time they have been used.
Okay.
I've got two names for you, and you're going to be surprised who I'm going to bring up. Nostradamus and Leonardo da Vinci built their own Kozyrev mirrors.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So that's not new. That's not new technology then. This is way back.
It is. He learned from history, and then he made it work. But okay, let's take Nostradamus. He was active many hundreds of years ago. He built an egg-shaped structure where he filled it with mirrors, and he put himself inside of it, and he went into a trance, and he saw things. So he built what's called a convex mirror. I'm sorry, a concave mirror. And he would, and we have concave mirrors all the time in telescopes, in optics, and everything. And they focus light. Well, he built himself a little cylindrical chamber where he would sit in there. And he would also use a silver cup and fill it with water. That is the same convex mirror, and you're sitting there looking at it, and that's where he did his prophecies. So now people say, oh, that's just all joke. No, it's not. Nostradamus got a lot of hits. He didn't know sometimes what he was looking at. I mean, if you and I were looking at the world in 300 years, we probably would have a hard time understanding the technology involved, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
And you see, that's the problem with when they're looking a couple hundred years in advance. They don't know what's going on, but we do. We've grown up with it, or it's happened, as we're living our lives. So that is one person who is documented to be using what's a Kozyrev mirror. The other one was Leonardo da Vinci. What he did was he had 8 panels of mirrors, circular, and he would get inside that and he would go into a trance. Now, Da Vinci showed designs of technologies from the past century. And how did he find them? Well, he was in a Kozyrev mirror. That's what it would be called today. So these things are, they're very real. So I'm going to tell everybody what to do, how to build your own Kozyrev mirror to use it just like Nostradamus did. Are you ready, Jessica?
Yes, and I just wanted to point out, Jay Truseeger said Kozyrev mirrors were supposedly used in Project Looking Glass. Now, these mirrors that you're talking about, they're like it looks like a fisheye lens, if people are familiar with that. It's like a rounded, curved mirror, just like Dr. John said. And I have a couple of those here in my house right now. I actually have a couple of them, and they distort everything. Okay, and a lot of people, if you look on your rear view mirror, like your side mirror in your car, there'll be like the regular mirror, and then there's a little concave or what do you call it? Concave mirror in the side, because it lets you see things that you normally couldn't see with that regular mirror there. Okay, it just gives you an added, I don't know what you call it, just added view. Okay.
Right. Just remember, objects in mirror are closer than they appear.
That's right.
You know how it is. Yeah, but here's what you can do. You can go to eBay and search for a Paul Revere cup or a Paul Revere bowl, which is silver, and it's just a bowl. And you order it. Now, it's a little bit expensive, but once you get one, you put some nice clear water in it, you focus on it, and you have a Kozyrev mirror, just like Nostradamus had.
Scribe.
I just gave everybody the secret to how to create your own Kozyrev mirror. It might cost a couple $100, but you've got a silver bowl. That's a nice thing to have, right, Jessica?
Yes, it is. It's good. It's good to know the future sometimes, especially living in these crazy times that we're living in right now.
Well, it's not necessarily clear that you will know the future, but you will certainly see a time stream of one potential future. And I think, do you agree with that?
One potential future, yes. Well, you and I actually, on my channel, I brought you on a glitch in the matrix. I remember we talked about Project Pegasus before, and Andrew Basiago. We talked about the different timelines and how with Project Pegasus they were actually taking people back. And I'm assuming Project Looking Glass is involved in this as well. Even the Montauk Project, the Phoenix Project, all these different projects. A lot of them involve time travel, okay, and actually peering into the different timelines. Okay, so if we can see one timeline, and then we bring in CERN, and all these like large hadron colliders and we live in a really strange time right now, Dr. John. Okay.
We do, and
Yeah.
it's very concerning because people
Concern.
they need to be extremely careful about the technology and how they use it. Even the
Yes.
mind technology, you've got to be careful. Now, and I just had a great thought and I completely forgot it. But oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to talk about Project Pegasus. Andy Basiago. May I talk a little bit about that?
Yes, please.
I think one of the crowning achievements of my life, I was a research associate at the Ryan Institute of Parapsychology when I was getting my doctorate. And I kind of used that to call up people and say, I'm John Stamey and I'm with the Ryan Institute, because I was with them. I'm with the Ryan Institute of Parapsychology, and I work with Dr. Sally Ryan Feather. And I've got a couple questions for you. And I'm going to tell you what, by and large, nobody refused me an interview. It was great. And then all of a sudden, I decided to call Andy Basiago. And I looked him up, and he was an attorney in British Columbia, in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I got his office phone number. I called, and he said, "I'm not here, but here's my cell phone." What do you think I did, Jessica? I
You
called his
called
cell
it.
phone,
You
and we
you ain't
talked for three
scared.
hours. He was
I
on
know.
the road, had his girlfriend in the car, had me on speakerphone, and it was the most enjoyable couple hours I have ever had in my life. And he told me the most
Yeah.
important thing that I ever heard. Now, I was a computer science professor at the time, and I was teaching project management. And the one thing that we always talked about is when I'd say, "How long is it going to take you to do a project? How long is it going to take you to do this project that I just gave you?"
Yeah.
And the students would answer, "Oh, 2 days, 3 days, 8 hours, whatever." I said, "You're wrong. You're all wrong, because you don't know what's going to happen when you walk out of here. You could get a call from your father that says, 'Come home, we've got an emergency,' and you won't be able to start on this project for next week for 4 days. And then you come back and you got all this other stuff." So what you do is you give a range of times in which you can get something finished. Under the best case scenario, everything works out, it could take 8 hours. But under the worst case scenario, you've got all these delays, all these problems, it could take you 2 weeks. So you've always got to consider the best case and the worst case and hope that you'll land somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, Andy Basiago told me about Project Pegasus. And the purpose of Project Pegasus was to send young people ages 10 to about 16, because it was easier on their bodies to go back in time for them to see. They wanted to answer the following question. I'll never forget it. Who shot Lincoln? That is
Oh,
the
yeah.
eternal question. It's like, but it took me a while to understand, why did they pick that question to ask the children when they went back? Who shot Lincoln? Why, oh, why? Well, when he told me the way it was answered, I've never heard this. This came right out of my project management class. I would give every one of them involved an A plus. I said, "It was John Wilkes Booth." He said, "No, John, it wasn't." He said 70% of the time it was John Wilkes Booth. We went back a total of 144. 70% of the time it was John Wilkes Booth. 25% of the time it was Mary Todd Lincoln that shot her husband at the Ford Theater. And 5% of the time it was somebody else. And I immediately said, I have just heard the greatest experiment in history, because what they prove is that there are multiple time streams. 70% of the time streams zero in on John Wilkes Booth. 25% of the time, they zero in on Mary Todd Lincoln, who had a lot of problems with Lincoln, with being the first lady and everything. I mean, just think
Yeah.
of the pressure of being the first lady during the Civil War. What on earth? How difficult could that be, Jessica?
Yes. Well,
And
there
then
were also some saucy things going on behind the scenes, from what I hear. We're not going down that rabbit hole tonight.
no, and I'm not, but I'm saying
Okay.
Mary Todd Lincoln may very well, under the pressure she was under, and
Yeah.
Lincoln had just gotten reelected, she might have had a reason to just go off the deep end and shoot her husband. And then 5% of the time it was somebody else. So that experiment proved the existence of multiple time streams. And if there's an experiment that I believe the government did that proved multiple time streams, what that does is that tells us that time is not linear. There is not
No.
one time in which John Wilkes Booth shot President Lincoln. There are at least 3 time streams where somebody, or John Wilkes Booth, or somebody else shot Abraham Lincoln. So now there is, okay, this is Project Pegasus. We don't have access to the information, but from what I've been told by one of the participants, this is good enough proof for me that there are multiple time streams. If there are multiple time streams, time is not linear. Okay,
It's not
it is
linear. That's right.
split. It is broken. Like, for example, I mean, Einstein said this in his general theory of relativity. All right, it is 2000 and you and I are seeing each other having lunch, and we don't see each other until this year, 2024. Well, it is a fact that we could have had different life events from each other.
Mhm.
And that's what Einstein said the theory of general relativity said. Now, there is more proof that time is not linear. Time is not a river going down. Time is a river that we can move forward in time. And you can see, well, that's why the Russian government took the Kozyrev mirror secret, because they said, if you can see into the future, we want this. Or you can go backwards. And now here's the question that I wanted to ask you. You're a
Okay.
seasoned remote viewer. You have had experience and you've had an instruction in remote viewing. Is that correct?
Correct. I do it
Okay.
every week, at least a couple of targets. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about going forward and backward in time. Just explain how do you think that works? What what switches are you tripping to go forward in time and to go backward in time? That's my question for you for tonight.
That's a good question because I'm just given a set of coordinate numbers and I'm able to travel. There is no space or time. Okay. We are more than this physical body. Okay, my answer is we are more than this physical body. And when you do something like the Monroe Gateway process, okay, there's something called the the Gateway process, and it's a form of mind control. I recommend anyone who is interested in learning remote viewing go to the practice and do it religiously. Okay, the Gateway process program. You can find it on Spotify. Okay, but do that. You will hear Robert Monroe with his beautiful voice, his very soothing voice, telling you every session, you are more than this physical body. Okay. And that's why. Okay. We're accessing parts of our consciousness where we're able to travel to different locations at different times, anywhere in the universe. Okay. Not just this earthly plane. We transcend. Okay. Because we are powerful. Okay. We're not just this physical body. We're made of much more of just flesh and bone. Just like the cryptids. Okay. When people are asking me, or, people are like, Bigfoot's just flesh and bone. I'm like, no, it's not. Okay. Because humans are not. We're not just flesh and bone. We're more than this physical body. And that's why I'm able to do this. Okay. And I'm trained in doing it. We're all capable of it. That's why. And that's my answer.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you very much. That's important. And what I will do is you just gave me a resource and I wrote it down. I'm famous for writing things down during podcasts so that I know what my study time is going to be like in the next week. So I'm going to go find Robert
Okay.
Monroe. And I was lucky enough to have breakfast with Joe McMoneagle of the Monroe Institute. He married Robert Monroe's daughter. And
Wow.
and
Yeah.
he's the greatest remote viewer at this time,
It's a
from what
good
I mean,
one.
and he is a prince, and he did something to me. He did 2 things to me that, do I have time to tell them?
You do? Well, we have about 15 minutes left for tonight. Let's talk about that, and then let's go to the tulpa as well a little bit tonight, because I
Okay,
wanted
okay,
I wanted to touch on that before we go tonight. So yeah, let's talk about
okay,
this.
okay, great. Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you what he did. He was sitting there in the banquet next to me, the Ryan Research Institute banquet. We were raising money, and he sat there, and I looked at him, and he was smiling at me at the other table. And all of a sudden, I saw a map of Southeast Asia, and there was a Malaysian flight that had gone down and was lost. And he showed me a spot in Laos where the plane was. And I thought, that's the craziest thing in the world. Well, about 10 years later, that's where they found it. He knew exactly where it was. And that's good enough. I mean, the man, he was part of Project Stargate. And I mean, he's just a great remote viewer, and he knows what he's doing. And let's face it, I think Project Stargate's still up and running and is fabulously successful. The best thing to do is say it's not successful and have some publicity out to shut it down. It's still going on. Of course, they got great remote viewers. They had the great Ingo Swann, who was unbelievable, and everybody needs to get a copy of Penetration, Ingo Swann's first book. It will change your life. Okay, thank you. I'll go. I'm
Yes.
sorry. That's my plug for Ingo Swann and Joe McMoneagle, two of the most phenomenal people. One I got to meet, and one I did not. They have just changed our universe in remote viewing. So
They
anyway,
have, and the fact, okay, so for people, if you're not familiar with these fellas in Project Stargate, watch The Men Who Stare at Ghosts with George Clooney. Okay, and that's a great movie. It's actually based on a very true story. I have friends to this day. I have a friend who has retired now, but was a sniper in the U.S. military special forces, who told me that they have a remote viewer assigned to every unit where he came from. Okay, so remote viewers are still very active in the U.S. military to this day. Just saying.
I mean, you've got to have them because you've got to
Mhm.
have better than just a couple of binoculars and some radar or sonar. You just have to have more than that to be safe. Anyway, all right, I am glad to get to talk about one of my favorite esoteric topics, the tulpa.
Oh yeah, I've never heard of this until today.
Would you like for me to do a brief introduction of the tulpa?
Please, because this is the first time I'm not familiar with it, but it's very similar to something else that I've covered recently called the homunculus. Okay, so let's
Right.
talk about it.
I have got a very good friend whose name I cannot divulge, and he told me about the tulpa, and he knows he's one of these guys that I'm sure he's worked for some interesting people before, and he put me on this, and I've covered it on my podcast a couple of times. The way he explained it to me is imagine three rabbinical Jewish priests, and they have a clay figure that they have built with arms and legs. It's about 7 feet tall, big dude. And they walk backwards around it 3 times, chanting some very special verses. And after they finished going around it the third time, that clay figure opens its eyes and becomes animated. Now,
Okay.
this is steeped in Jewish literature. I mean, you can believe it if you want. I know I do. I know there are things that religion can do. I know that, I mean, I'm familiar with St. Cyprian of Antioch, who had many miracles associated with him. And so religion can do things. So don't think that it can't. So, anyway, the tulpa can animate a clay figure. It's called the golem. There was a movie, I think, in 1921 about the golem. They've never really remade it. I don't think they want to. I think that they want to keep that hidden. But there is a story that some priests created a golem in the Czech Republic. And the golem walked through the woods and found a camp where there were a number of Nazi officers. He walked into their compound and he killed them all. And then he collapsed. He was gone. And that's a story, and it's more than just a story. I believe it's true. There's a lot of stuff that went on in Nazi Germany, and Jessica, I think you'll agree with me. There's a lot of crazy stuff that went on because Hitler was all about the paranormal and in wanting to use that to his advantage, right?
Okay. I'm sorry, I disappeared for a half second. I was seeing people complaining about the volume, and so I was trying to fix it, and I just disappeared. Okay, so that
Okay.
happens. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
So anyway,
Yeah,
what I was saying is there were a
quit
lot of
watching the
strange
comments
things
so
that
much.
went on
Yeah.
in Nazi Germany because
Okay.
you know, Hitler wanted to use the paranormal, as we believe he did have bases down in Antarctica. And there's a
Yes.
reason that all the world went down there in 1957 for the International Geophysical Year, and they all decided not to go down there and pursue research without everybody's consent. There's a lot of strange things going on in Antarctica, which I believe are the remnants of the Nazis. And so there we go. Now, what is a tulpa? A tulpa is really when a group of people want to believe in something to the point that they actually manifest or create that being, and that can happen. The Philip experiment was the most famous one. It was up in Canada. Two professors brought a couple of their students in. They had a séance, and they tried to create an entity called Philip. And they told Philip what he was. They told him his characteristics. Well, we know that you're this. We know that you have a fiance. We know this and this and this. And by the time they did the third seance, Philip was knocking at the table, at the door, was moving things around. And they had created, not inadvertently, but they had created an entity. And so that is very famous. It's called the Philip experiment. Now,
Okay.
so let's say that it really can happen. In my opinion, you're going to be surprised when I tell you the most important and prevalent tulpa in the world. Are you ready for a shock?
Yes. What is it?
In 1930, the Coca-Cola Corporation had a
Oh,
Madison Avenue firm draw this jolly old man in a red suit with a beard that was Santa Claus. And at any one time, there are over 100 million kids from the ages of 3 to 12 that love Santa Claus and want to see Santa Claus. Well, I'm going to tell you something. You better be careful for what you wish because you may receive it. There are
okay.
thousands of reports of a real Santa Claus. There really are. Now, better be careful about Clement Moore's poem. Wonder where that really came from. You better
Okay.
wonder. So anyway, and here's the point. So I have a personal experience with Santa Claus from this
Okay.
manifestation of Santa Claus. Do I have 3 minutes to tell it?
You do. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
I want to
Okay.
hear it.
Okay. Let's go to the Stamey household back when I was 8 years old. It was me, my mom, and my dad. That was the safest place for a kid to live. Every night, those doors were locked. My dad went around, made sure every door was locked. Nobody was getting in. And I remember he had a shotgun under the bed. So nobody was going to get in. And I remember I was 8 years old and it was Christmas Eve. And I believed in Santa Claus and I wanted to see Santa Claus. My parents went on to bed. It was about 10 o'clock. Now I know why they went to bed at 10 o'clock because they had to get up a little early to do some things, but that's not the case. So anyway, what happens is I got some sugar cookies from the counter, and I got some milk from the refrigerator, and I poured a glass of milk, and I put two sugar cookies on a plate, and I put them on a TV tray. Now, do you remember a TV tray? It was those little
Yes.
things where you could put your food on and eat and watch television. Yeah, that's right. So I put
Yes.
them
I
on
had
the TV
I had
tray.
several, and the legs folded up underneath it. Yes, they were metal. I had
That's
one.
right.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age, but that's okay. So anyway,
I'm an old lady. I know what you're talking about.
so what I did was I wrote a note to Santa Claus. I said, Santa Claus, thank you. I wish I could see you. Love, Johnny. And that's what I wrote. And I'll never forget that. So anyway, I went to bed. It was about 11 o'clock. So anyway, got up about 8 o'clock. That's what time we always got up on Christmas Day. We just didn't get up until 8. We went in and it was wonderful. There were all these presents under a tree. It was incredible. And I said, hey, Mommy, let me show you something. I left something for Santa Claus. Let's see if he got the cookies and the milk I left. And she just laughed. She said, well, where'd you put them? I said, over here on the TV tray next to the TV. So I said, come on over. So she came over with me. And 2 bites had been taken out of one of those cookies. And about a third of the milk had been drunk. And on the back of the note that I wrote, it said, Merry Christmas. You've been a good boy, Johnny. Love, Santa.
Okay.
And my mother looked like she had been shot through the head. It was, and I was smart enough at 8 years old to know what my mother's writing was and my father's writing was and mine, and it was not any of ours. It was a very different script. And my mother got creeped out. She said, oh, well, and she took the note, balled it up. She threw it in the fireplace, let it burn, and she took and threw everything away, and she was creeped out the rest of the day. So what I can tell you is I believe the true spirit of Christmas visited the Stamey house. It was locked up tighter than a drum, that old phrase. Nobody was going to get in there, or they would have met my dad and the shotgun. And so Santa Claus, I believe, and that was my first experience with paranormal. So anyway, that's what happened to me. That was my experience with the tulpa. I enjoyed it. I've always remembered it. I think it's great. Careful, because if you love Santa Claus, there is a Santa Claus out there, and you know what? He might come visit you.
We have Santa Claus in the chat.
And
Santa Claus is showing up to the chat tonight, John. We have Santa Claus in the chat. Says, did someone mention Santa Claus? Okay, so
yeah.
You never know what's going to happen on Spaced Out Radio, y'all. We have Santa in the chat. He has entered. Okay, so you're saying that Santa is a tulpa, could have been a tulpa, like a manifested being, and and that actually that could make some sense, because there is something about the collective consciousness, and I talk about it quite a bit with encouraging all of my viewers and anyone who's watching any of my videos to think positivity, think positively, okay, so that we can change the vibration of everyone around us, for your highest good, and I feel like that's all about mind control. Okay, it is mind control in a good way. It's not about me controlling your mind; it's you controlling your own mind and all that kind of stuff. Right. But things like the power of prayer. When somebody's in a car accident, let's just say, when my friends have been sick, my mom has a friend she calls who has a network of people at the different churches around the county and all over who are the prayer warriors. And they have a phone line, a phone tree is what they call it. And you call one person, they call everybody, and they all immediately begin praying for a good outcome, for a positive outcome, to surround the person with love and comfort.
I will venture forth and say there are many times that it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does work. Prayer works, okay, for the most part. But I am convinced that when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. Okay. And so I pray for people to pass, if it's your time to go, I just pray that it's your time to go, and give comfort to your family. You know what I mean? I hope my family finds comfort when I go. All right. I look at death a little differently, okay, than a lot of people, because I think I've died a few times. Okay. But yeah, it's amazing. And I actually, okay, so with the tulpa, I connected that when we were talking about it to the homunculus. Okay, and I won't get into detail about that right now because we don't have time. We've run out of time. But I do have a show on my channel about it, and it did get removed by Facebook. So I obviously was over the target with it. Okay, but it is I don't want to say manifested being, but it kind of is. Okay, but this is all fascinating, John. since we've run out of time, can you please tell my audience about your conference coming up and also where they can find you?
Okay, great. The conference coming up is the World UFO Conference. That is in Clayton, Georgia. That is June 28th and 29th. Just go to www.worldufoconference.com. Find it. You can buy tickets. You can see who's talking. You can see Jessica Jones. She's one of our keynote speakers, and we could not be any luckier to have a wonderful keynote speaker like Jessica Jones. We've got Matt Delph. We've got Dr. Brooks Agnew. We've got John LeMay. We've got lots of cool people. So please come by and visit the World UFO Conference. We've also got coming up September the 19th, we've got the Tennessee Bigfoot Conference, Newport, Tennessee. In September 28th, we have got, lo and behold, the Myrtle Beach Bigfoot Conference and the Myrtle Beach Festival for Kids. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we've got a lot of great things coming up. You can find me 2 places. Number 1, go to ScaryCast.com, and you can find links to iHeartRadio. And we also have a YouTube channel called Bigfoot and Company.info. You can type that in at Bigfoot and Company.info. That's our YouTube channel. And we've got, as of this week, a brand new channel on Roku TV. It is in conjunction with the great entertainer and star of American Idol, Isaiah Grass, my really good friend. We love Isaiah. He's one of the biggest supporters of ScaryCast you've ever seen. And all you have to do is go to Roku TV and type in IGMP TV, and you can find it, and you'll see a tab that says ScaryCast. And there we are. We got lots of cool stuff there. So that's where you can find me. And also you can find me occasionally on Spaced Out Radio and Jessica Jones Show. You can find me every week on ScaryCast 2 or 3 times a week. We just did one, UFO 101 with Les Durant. So we're all over. Please come join us. Send me a text. Send me a email message. Let's talk. I love talking to people that enjoy listening to ScaryCast and enjoy all this stuff. So, and Jessica, I want to say thank you so much. It is wonderful. And now I've got to have you and your best buddy, Ben, your son, back soon. And I look forward to having you at the World UFO Conference. And thank you.
I'll be there. And you guys, Dr. John is the only person who has ever been allowed to interview my son on an interview about his Bigfoot experience. So if you guys want to see that interview, go to Bigfoot and Company on YouTube. Okay, it's there. Dr. John, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait for the World UFO Conference. I will see you there. Thanks for being here tonight. You're the best.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Thank you. Okay. All right, y'all. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I'm sorry it disappeared for like a half second. That was weird. I was trying to fix things and I just messed things up. That's how it usually works. But this has been fantastic. Thank y'all so much for all the support tonight. For everybody who was here in the chat, you guys are the best. Thanks to my moderators. I saw y'all try to get rid of. We had a troll tonight. I saw that, so I think I zapped him. All right, but anyways, thank you all so much for being here. Please go over to After Hours after this show. As soon as we say goodbye, Raji has got the show started. I just saw it pop up in my notifications. All right, y'all, come see me this week. I'll be at the Cryptid Huntress over on YouTube on Wednesday. I have Vic Cundiff of Dogman Encounters coming on 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a fantastic conversation. I can't wait. You guys have a wonderful week. Please stay safe out there. I hope y'all learned something tonight. I always do. And I appreciate all of y'all. Again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I will see you guys later this week. Bye.